Hi, Dave. Welcome to the Leanpub launch video for GitHub Actions Essentials. Automate, integrate, deploy, unlocking the power of GitHub Actions. I was wondering if you could just please take a moment to talk a little bit about yourself and about your book and who it's for.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for inviting me. So I'm a software de developer. I've been working in the industry, wow, since 1988. So what's that, 35 years now? Um, I started off as a C programmer, but when the web became trendy in the later half of the 90s, I switched to being a Perl programmer. A lot of database work, and then obviously building websites and CGI programs and all that kind of stuff. I've been a freelancer since the end of the 90s, working for various companies in London, where I'm based, and I got into Git pretty soon after it was first released. I think I was working for the BBC at the time. That's when I could first remember using Git. And then GitHub followed fairly soon afterwards. And that's obviously a tool on the side of being a software developer. I've been using GitHub to store all of my code for probably 15 years now, getting on for 15 years. And trying to keep up to date with all of the important new features that they've been adding on to, because it's obviously it's Git at the base of it, but there's all these extra really useful tools that they also have. And GitHub Actions is, I was going to say the latest, but there's probably GitHub Projects is more recent. But I had been on various projects. I was working on dealing with Jenkins to do like CI and CD stuff. And it seemed like having something that would handle the CI and the CD baked into the same tool as we were using to store the code would make things easier. So I've spent a lot of the last couple of years using every opportunity to use GitHub Actions to make my life easier. And a couple of months ago, I decided that maybe it would be a good idea to try and share some of the knowledge that I've picked up over the last 12 months or so. So I wrote the book, which was published at the end of last week.
Yeah, thanks very much for sharing all that. And just for someone sort of, let's say someone's just a brand new to programming and they've just been introduced to GitHub and they were wondering what GitHub Actions is, if you could maybe give me a use case for it that you could explain.
Okay, so I mentioned in my introduction the terms CI and CD. Now, I guess you can sum those up as being the boring bits of software development that people often skip. CI is continuous integration, and it just means that when you commit changes to your code, various processes need to take place. That might be linting to check to see whether your code comes up to scratch, it follows the programming standards for the project that you're working on, that kind of thing, or running tests to make sure that you haven't broken anything, and other measurements of the quality of your code, like the test coverage and stuff like that. And often a CI process will produce some kind of nice website with graphs on. You can then look at and watch the quality of your code going up over time. So that's the CI side. And then there's the CD, which stands for continuous deployment. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I've been in the industry for a very long time. And back when I started, well, for most of the career, I suppose, release cycles were very long. You would work for months on a load of new features, and then you'd finish that, and then you'd go into a month of testing, and then once that was finished, you would push that out live into production. But these days, when we're all far more agile, we're trying to get the release cycles down. So you do a smaller amount of work. You run your CI to make sure that you haven't broken anything, and then it's great if you can automatically push stuff out just at the push of a button. And so that's what continuous deployment does. I don't think I've yet worked for a client who's got there, but the end goal is that every time you commit something new to the code base, it runs through all the tests, and as long as the tests pass, it then automatically goes out onto the live servers. I mean, you hear about some large, very tech savvy companies that will release code dozens of times a day rather than once every 6 months like it used to be. So yeah, GitHub Actions drives continuous integration, continuous deployment, and basically makes your life so much easier.
Thanks very much for that really great explanation. And thanks also for the very great book, GitHub Actions Essentials. I recommend it to everybody, whatever level you're at in your programming. It's really good. It's really clear, and it'll just make you way more productive and make your code better. So thank you very much, Dave, for being on this Leanpub launch video.
Thank you for having me.